up. Get ready. It's going to be a very, very intense journey. Begin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 36 of Frameskip, your weekly video game podcast where we get together to talk about whatever's happening in the world of video games. I'm your host for the night, Austin Eller. I'm joined by the coach, Kyle Newman. What's up, Coach?
What's up, bros?
How are you? How's it been this week?
I'm doing okay. Woke up at 3:45, couldn't get back to sleep. So I watched, December's when I watch all my Star Wars movies. Right. So I threw in Phantom Menace. And now that we have all the backstory and we know everything, Phantom Menace is a good movie.
I think it's the best of the prequel trilogy.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would say number 2. I'm still a big fan of now episode 3, but now to me, episode 3, when I watch it, is truly a tragedy. And then when you add in, if you watch the last 4 episodes of the last season of
Clone
Wars, man, it hits you hard.
For me, I'm not even making fun of the content really of episode 3. I just don't like the way it looks. Like visually, I think like the CGI really didn't age well. And like the mix of like practical effects and CGI from episode 1, I think aged a lot better. Like I'm not even crapping on the story of Revenge of the Sith, which I think is entertaining, not bad. But episode 1, I think looks the most like the originals.
I was one of those people that went and saw episode 1 in 3D when they re-released it like 10 years ago.
Well, they also released episode 4, A New Hope. And then the next year they were going to do, they're going to do 1 each year, right? So in a 2-year period, they're going to do 4, 5, and 6. So they did 4. And I remember I went and watched it and then they just stopped they didn't do 5 and 6.
They like gave up on it.
Yeah.
They just stopped, which was odd. But I guess I'm assuming 1 probably just did not do anything numbers wise.
I mean, it was cool. You know, I enjoyed it. Yeah. If they go back and do it again, like I would go and watch them just to go back into the theater.
I assume it was also like the decline of like 3D TVs and like 3D Blu-ray players and stuff. Where, like if they couldn't sell that copy, then like they were really just doing like an extra month run of the movie in theaters, which like I guess isn't the worst idea. Like Star Wars is going to make some money, but it's also like, is it worth the conversion to 3D?
Was that before or after Avatar?
That was definitely after.
That was after, yeah.
Yeah, because
it was like 2011 maybe.
Avatar, was it really 2011?
Yeah.
Avatar was 2009, but
no, I'm saying Phantom Menace. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm talking about A New Hope. Remember when?
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that one.
But from what I remember, it was early 2000s maybe. But yeah, dude, like I'm watching it and I'm thinking the whole time, like Jar Jar didn't bother me. Jake Lloyd didn't bother me. I just kept looking at Qui-Gon and I'm like, Qui-Gon, I think, because he turned down being in he got offered to be in the Jedi Council.
Right.
And he turned it down. So, because he's smart, because he saw how they were. And he was always like not arguing. Oh, nice.
George is showing his episode 1 3D poster.
I've been cleaning out my room and I found this. And I'm like, should I get rid of this? And I'm like, there's absolutely no way I can get rid of this. Yeah.
So it was
February 10th, 2011, by the way, in case you're wondering.
Oh, wow.
That was right.
Thank you, poster.
So if Qui-Gon would not have died, I think Anakin would have turned out totally different.
I think you could be right about that. Qui-Gon's a really interesting character. Does he have any like comics or books or anything?
Yeah. No. Well, there's the one book that was actually created as a drama. It's with Dooku. The main thing is with Dooku, but the story is when Dooku and Qui-Gon were together. When Dooku was training Qui-Gon. And so it's really interesting. And it's told by gosh, I can't believe I forget her name. The one where Asajj Ventress. So she was kind of narrating it. You know, it was her point of view. And I just kept thinking when I was watching it this morning how Anakin because Anakin would have had a father figure in Qui-Gon, right? Where it would have been a lot more discipline. And I don't know if he would have been as cocky, but I think he would have been a totally different Jedi. Whereas Obi-Wan, he didn't have that discipline because they were more like brothers. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that one part where, Darth Maul and Qui-Gon face off the first time, where he jumped back up in the ship, and you see Anakin and Obi-Wan meet for the first time. It was like, wow, that's now that I watched that moment, that's a pretty big moment, because that's where it all started, and as much, and I'll get off this kick, but as much as people give Jar Jar Binks crap about him, he's the reason why Palpatine is where he was in power. No, it wasn't. It was Padme. Because remember, she did the vote of confidence on the Chancellor.
Yeah.
Yep. So she initiatized everything, right? If that's even a word. Right. But
I think it's initialized. But yeah, no, I'm with you, man. And then like Jar Jar Binks was just like standing in for her. And it's like, man, he wasn't like an elected official.
Right.
So like you can't really. Why would you give him that much power into the people who didn't vote for him? What are you doing?
Speaking of power, we're joined as well by George Cam Newton Loftus. What's up, George?
It's me. I can't complete a pass over 10 yards, but I'm on a win streak, baby. Go Pats.
I've been injured 45 times, but I'm okay.
Hey, we shut out the Chargers 45-0.
You destroyed them.
I know. I started Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen in a different fantasy league, and man, that really screwed me.
How's it been, George? How's your week been?
It's been good. It's been good. Battling a little seasonal depression. I'm in Maine. It gets dark at like 3:30 here.
Really?
So I'm just trying to stay busy.
Does it actually get dark that early, or is that exaggerated?
I might be exaggerating by like 15 minutes. Like it might be like 3:45, but like the sun is almost down by 4.
I was going to say it gets dark here now at like 5:30, and that's awful. So I can't imagine that.
Yeah, it's not great.
How close are you to Bangor, Maine?
I'm an hour south.
Okay, so we always fly in and out of Bangor, Maine when we're coming back from deployment.
Yeah, no, that's whenever I go to the airport to like pick up like my mom or whoever's flying in, we're always seeing military people come in, and because it's like a direct flight from like Germany to Bangor right now.
Wow,
it's a cute little town there.
I've never been to Maine. I don't think
Stephen King based the town in It off of Bangor, so it's lovely. Not as many dead clown aliens, I promise.
Okay. Well,
how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's been a week today, but we haven't done this in a while, so I thought this would be fun. What's everybody been playing this last week? George, what have you been playing?
I've been playing more of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So I know I said some things about it last time about how like I just don't know how much I like it compared to the older games. The game's really good. Like once you get to England, it really opens up in a way that I wasn't expecting. I think my frustration was that it felt like it was treating it like it was your first Assassin's Creed game, like more so than the most recent Assassin's Creed games. Mm-hmm. And so the opening area just like sucks. It's snowy and icy and like it looks like Skyrim, but there's like not a whole lot to do. So you just spend most of your time traveling to a point to see what it is. And then it's just never as exciting as what you build up in your head because instead of like the question marks from Assassin's Creed Odyssey, there's like different colors connoting like what you're going towards. So like if it's blue, then that's like a side quest. If it's gold, there's a treasure there. If it's white, that's like an artifact, which is like a special type of collectible you can find. Mm-hmm. And the opening area is boring, but then man, you get into the second area, you get into England, and holy crap, you just get to raid monasteries, and they brought back like the not quite the mercenary system from Assassin's Creed Odyssey or like the Phylacity system from Assassin's Creed Origins, but there's just like these roaming super powerful bosses, and it's just absolutely insane how strong they are. Every time you level up, you get 2 skill points. Basically, each skill point levels you up 1 power. And so I'm at like 65 power now, I think 70 power. And like, there's a whole bunch of areas that are like, you need 290 power. I'm like, holy crap, that's a lot of game between now and then.
Wow.
Yeah. But the story is interesting. It's basically, it feels almost like Dragon Age Inquisition a little bit. And like, you're kind of like just building up your settlement, and you're trying to like amass these alliances to give you like, I think like the right to be a king in England, basically.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so you're trying to forge allegiances between all these like disparate parties. You're trying to also fight like the Templars, who have, I guess, stayed in England ever since like the collapse of Rome. So there's a lot going on. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's a little overwhelming. And like, I know that Odyssey was a big game. I know Origins was a big game, but like this one just feels so much bigger, like such a large jump even from Odyssey, that's a little intimidating. Like, I just don't know if I have it in me for like a 150-hour game. We'll see.
I've been like struggling with that recently as far as like the length of games. Like, I'm kind of at a point now where I used to never think this, but I'm like definitely at the point now where I am certainly of the mindset of a game can be too long.
Yeah, buddy.
But I think that's, you know, it's like a personal thing too, for sure. Like, you know, if I wasn't working a full-time job that required me to commute 2 hours every day, like I probably wouldn't be quite as concerned about it. But I'm like kind of at the point now where I don't know. I've kind of given up on JRPGs and like games of like massive size.
Yeah.
Just because I just know I can't. Like, or if I attempt, it's going to be months before I beat it.
Well, especially like I like reading, I like listening to music, like I even like going for walks, and it just seems like everything is in direct conflict with something else. I'm like, but I could go for a walk and listen to a podcast. I could go for a walk and listen to an album I've been wanting to listen to again, you know? And so just trying to find like, I've said before that I don't care about story in games. I don't, but also like I paid for this game. So like if there's like dialogue, like I'm going to pay attention to it. It's just not my driving force. Like I need a game to be fun first, and then if there's a good story, that's awesome. That's just icing on the cake, but that's not what I look for. But then like, I can't listen to a podcast even while I'm just like running through the fields because there's a freaking mission every 20 feet that I just stumble into. I'm like, well, I gotta figure out what's going on here, because the game does a whole bunch. Like it just leaves context because it doesn't tell you how to do anything. It doesn't show you where your objectives are really. And so like you need to find like a note that'll tell you like, oh, we stopped putting guards up on the north because of the hole there, and we could just see from the inside. So like I had to find that note on one side of the church, then like go to the other side of the church, shoot an arrow from like a very, very far away into a tiny slit to like blow up like the barred door, so I could sneak into the church and get like the armor that was hidden in there. And so it's like a way more involved game. So I'm like, crap, man. Like with Origins, I would just like listen to a podcast and like get a little high and play that, and I can't do that anymore. Like I really got to focus if I want to get this game done.
Right. Coach, what were you going to say? There was something you were...
No, I was going to tell George, I'm the same way about music. As far, you know, you said you don't need a story for a video game. For music, I don't care about the lyrics. To me, it's all about the music. And I think I'm in the minority on that one, because everyone likes a good song, but I'm all about that beat, the bass, the drumming, the guitar, everything all together, you know. So whether it's Led Zeppelin or if you have Nirvana, you know, where they have meaning in their songs, or you have Motley Crue, it's just about let's get naked and party, basically, you know. As long as it has like it's good musically, then I'm okay.
That's really interesting. I think that is the equivalent for me with games, though, because it's one of those things like I don't need to listen to the lyrics of a Led Zeppelin song to know how a Led Zeppelin song is supposed to make me feel, you know?
Right.
And like, I don't need to pay attention to a story in some games to know that like, oh man, I'm pressing a lot of buttons really quickly. I got to dodge a lot. I got to roll a lot. I got to spam quick attacks. I'm like, oh, this is like a stressful action game. You know, like it's just like the way I interact with the controller tells me everything I need to know about the game. The same way, like, oh man, this beat is just low and slow, and like, oh, this is just a horny song, you know? Like, but something just transcend like the exact, like them telling you how you're supposed to feel about things.
There's two games recently within the last 4 or 5 years, whatever, that I was more focused on the story, and that was Jedi Fallen Order and Breath of the Wild, because Breath of the Wild had just a little bit of story basically, but you know, going and finding the memories, that was important to me, because that gave you a little bit of a backstory, you know? So, yeah. But I'm kind of like you, where, you know, I mean, I grew up on the NES, and games didn't really have Mike Tyson's Punch Out, Contra. You know, it was just, there's no story. You just go out there. I mean, even Legend of Zelda, you know, you go in.
Dangerous to go alone. That was all you got.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then it looked like a little pig that you fight at the end, you know.
Well, and you know, I was thinking about, sorry, this is like way off topic, but I love this conversation, so I'm going to keep yanking this thread. When I was driving home today, I was just in the mood, so I turned on, I don't know, Coach probably knows, I don't know if you played this game, George, but Skyward Sword on the Wii, it came with a soundtrack disc of like orchestral renderings of like Zelda songs. Mm-hmm. And so I was listening to this like in the car on the way home from work today. And even though most Zelda games don't really have stories, I was like listening to this music in the car on the way home, and I was like getting emotional, like thinking about like all the memories I had like playing these games, and like just my love for these games, and like the way they made me feel like just listening to like this orchestral music, even though they don't really have like, I don't know, crazy stories or anything like that. So I think that's fascinating. For me at least, like I'm certainly of the same mindset too. Like I think a game can be super memorable and enjoyable without too much in the way of story, personally. Like if there's a great environment or if the music is good, like there's a lot to a game for me.
Well, I remember Destiny 1 got crapped on a lot because like most of the story, the backstory, everything about that game was hidden in the Grimoire cards. Right. And so you had to play the game to unlock more Grimoire cards, and then you were basically sort of like assembling your own mystery from there. And like, I didn't think that was a very fair criticism, because Destiny did such a good job of making like multiplayer work together in a way, like co-op. Like the raids, I think, are some of my favorite gaming memories of this generation. And so like, yeah, you can say that like there's no story to it, but like I still remember doing like the Crota raid in Destiny 1. And that took 6 hours. And that's like one of my all-time favorite memories, just because like the story became not about like, you know, defeating the son of Oryx or whatever, but it became about like, okay, Jason, I need you to like actually jump up. You need to be able to get 3 swings on him with that sword. Otherwise, I'm going to murder you in real life. Like we've done this 45 times in a row. We can't do this anymore. It is 4:00 in the morning. We said we were going to do this really quick and then go to bed. I need you to stop sucking. Just nut up, cowboy up, and get it done. And so like that became the story. I'm like, oh yeah, man, the story of Destiny is fantastic. Oh, it's so great. Yeah. You just hate your friends and then they hate you, and back and forth forever, and then you die. It's fantastic.
So if you were to go back in any time, and this is for both of you guys, if you were to go back in any time, and this is just thinking about good memories of gaming, and you would want to relive again, what would it be? Like it could be a launch, it could be a generation, it could be, you know, a summer when a bunch of games, or a fall, you know, where would you go back to and either experience again, or you knew you missed something and you wanted to experience for the first time?
Oh, man. I think my answer is less time-based. I mean, it still is time-based because this is when I played this set of games, and it's probably obvious for those that know me, but I had always wanted to get into this franchise. I had a friend of ours, Blake, who was super into this franchise and had talked to me about it for years, and I thought it was interesting. But one summer, I picked up every Metal Gear Solid game. At the time, I guess it was 1 through 4 and Peace Walker were the only ones that were out. And I played through all of them, like in a span of like a month or two. And those games like changed my life. Like I mean, it's my favorite series now. They're phenomenal games. But the problem with those games is they're so story-based that going back to them now, like I still love them, but I'll never forget, like, I don't know, slight spoilers for those that haven't played, but like getting to the end of Metal Gear Solid 3 and like fighting the boss, like that sequence. I don't know, just the emotions and memories and everything I have of that game, the build up to the end of 4, like everything. And I can't even imagine being somebody who had spent, 15 years playing these games and leading up, starting with 1, I guess it was in like 97 or 98, I think, something like that. And then finishing it off with 4 and whenever that was, 2007-ish. and I played them all in a month. So I can't imagine like doing it over that 10 years or so and letting that build more than what I did. So I guess my short answer is I just want to replay Metal Gear Solid, all of them, and for the first time again. That would be my go-to.
How about you, George?
I'm torn. I got two answers. My freshman year of college, I had a roommate that basically you got to choose your roommate if you both like met each other at orientation. You're like, oh yeah, we wouldn't mind living with each other. We're both like, oh yeah, I got a 360. He's like, me too. I'm like, oh, you seem normal. He's like, yeah, you too. And that was like all the conversation was. And then we started like living together, and it turns out we were both really into games, and we got so into Rainbow Six Vegas 2 that was all we did. And so we wouldn't even like, we played through the story and we're like, yeah, that was fine, but like I just kind of want to keep playing this game. So we got incredibly into Terrorist Hunt.
Right.
And so we'd said it's like the hardest AI, the most amount of enemies in the smallest confined space. And we like made it into a drinking game. We made it into like, okay, if I get more kills, then like you have to go get the pizza from Domino's. I'm like, we just did it for everything. And then like also like we made bets. We would settle arguments in Mario Tennis on N64, and it got to the point where it was like 2 + 2 is 5. It's like, no, man, it's 4. It's like, well, it looks like we're going to settle this on the court. And so we would like create like our own laws and physics of the universe that only existed in our dorm because someone won a game of Mario Tennis.
That's fun. That's good memories. That's something like when you're old, you'll remember that stuff, you know?
Well, that, and then we lived together sophomore year. And then that was like, he got a PS3. I got a Wii, and so we had like 2 TVs set up in our dorm, and we had it so like one person could play like sitting on the couch with the 360, which is what we had most of our games for, and the other person could play like PS3 like over by the door on the desk. We had like a little mini like 30-inch TV over there. And man, it was just so much fun. We were just like literally like swapping in and out. I was just like, okay, man, I want to play this game. It's called Mag. It's supposed to be sweet. And then like doing that. And then like, all right, cool, man. I really want to check out this game. I've heard good things. It's called Mass Effect. And you just doing that, swapping back and forth. And
I'm pretty sure that's the first time Mag has ever been brought up on the show, and I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, I love that game. I can't believe that game came out on PlayStation 3, and that's not something they're trying to like revive for PS5.
That game was revolutionary.
256 player multiplayer? Are you freaking kidding me? Ridiculous. It's preposterous. How did we go back from that?
Okay, I redact my answer. My answer is I want to go back to when Mag servers were still online.
Yeah.
Because that is the answer for me, honestly. That game was so much fun. Again, same friend Blake. Blake and I played that game like crazy when it was operational. So
that game was
what
great.
A game. What a game.
The other era is I kind of miss, I like wasn't really paying that much attention to games when I was like 15, 16, like 2005, 2006, 2004. And like looking back on it, I think that's like probably the most interesting era of games. Like when the GameCube was going strong, when the Xbox was going strong, the PS2, like I just love that aesthetic. I think I've talked about that before on the podcast. Like anything Y2K era is just crack to me. But yeah, just like going to the store and like not still being like unsure about your purchases. Cause like I still had dial up until like 2010, but like going and like, like this game seems kind of interesting. It looks weird though. And it's like beyond good and evil. And you're like, oh crap, that game was amazing. Like that was a lot of fun. And then like I was still buying a lot of licensed games at the time because they were the quickest ones to drop down to $20 at Walmart. So like I would just justify to myself, like, oh man, the Fantastic Four game came out. Like that one's not bad. It's not the worst game. Like I actually think I had fun with that. And just like being like, oh man, what was I thinking? That game sucks. But then like the Punisher game comes out and you grab that. And, like that game's like legit great. Like the third person shooter Punisher game. The game's actually,
I never played it, but I heard it was good.
The game is actually incredible and the most violent thing I've ever played. Where like you'd be like in a car mechanic's office, and you'd like have to interrogate some guy. So you'd like grab him by the throat, throw him down onto like a clamp, and pull out like a drill. And then it became like a rhythm game of you trying to like balance the drill above his head so that it would intimidate him into answering you, but not press it too far so you'd kill him before getting the information you needed. I'm like, I can't believe this is a game, man. Like this is the most violent thing. Like this is worse than like a Tarantino movie. Like this is brutal. But that balancing act of those three consoles and like in like the graveyard of the Dreamcast, I think is just so cool.
Oh, the Dreamcast. What a system.
What about you, Coach?
I think for me, there's two, like, I guess when we all first met in like 2012, when we were starting YouTube, basically, that was exciting, right? Because it was a new thing, you know, and getting like a capture card that could record at 720, bro, that was good back then, right?
Yep.
And so Austin and I, we would actually we would push each other to make better videos. We would help each other out. Like that was such a fun time. Like we would be on Google Hangouts and we'd just be talking all night. Right. And it's crazy. I'd fall asleep and be snoring.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't even know how we've talked about this, but I don't know how in the world we would literally stay on there until like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even know the last time I stayed up till 4 a.m. I don't even know the last time I stayed up till 1 a.m.
I mean, it was just like, it was so exciting because both the PS3 and 360 were hitting its peak, right? They were doing really well. Both of them were. Microsoft, or they just in the 360 just put out that 4 gig model that they had.
Yep.
And so, because if you remember, the first 360 that had the HDMI out, it didn't have audio. So you would have to use your audio visual, your AV cables and the HDMI, but it wouldn't fit. So you would have to take the housing around it, so that way you could get your HDMI cable in. It was wild back then, but that, and then probably like long term, I would probably want to go back and like get more into PC game when gaming, when Doom came out, like when the original Doom, like during that, be with that movement of Doom 2, Quake.
That seems like such a weird time. Like no other time in gaming was there like a real you had to be there moment. You know, like that feels like the biggest one to me. Just the underground scene of first-person shooters like really coming and like pressing, like, oh yeah, well it's a shareware floppy disk, so like you can get by with like you just need 2 of these, and then you can get the rest from downloading. It's like, wait, what's downloading? It's like, all right, man, buckle up.
So and and at that time, people you had 46 computers. They were just jumping into Pentium, your Pentium processor and stuff like that. So it was, those 90s, man, were something special, and I mean, think about it. The Super Nintendo made big strides. The Genesis and the Super Nintendo, that whole, battle between the two, I mean, it helped them out, because they pushed each other, the competition. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, definitely I would want to go and maybe take a time out on the console as far as the Genesis and Super Nintendo and focus on getting into Doom and getting into that community. Yeah. Because that was you look back and it's awesome.
I also think it'd be fun to be on the ground floor of World of Warcraft. Mm-hmm. I think that would be.
Was that like 2003 or 2002 or something?
Around there.
Yeah, just taking a break from Ultima Online. You're like, there's no way this new thing's going to be as good as this. But
the documentaries on that whole release and, the early days of World of Warcraft it's so fun to watch. Because I never really got into it. Right. But the release parties were just like massive,
I caught some G4 like B-roll the other day. I was just like bored on YouTube, and it was talking about Halo 2's release, and it was just like going to like the midnight launches at like Times Square in New York, and man, just that entire era of like just douchebags with like the puka shell necklaces and like the gelled hair that like was just like strong enough to like land like a helicopter on top of, like on that weird platform that people always made with their hair. And everyone was wearing like a Tool t-shirt or something. Like, God, it's just what a special time.
Yeah. I remember Halo 2. I was at Fort Hood and it was raining and cold. And so I went over to Walmart and I picked it up. And that was one of the most hyped games hyped I was for a game, because we had so much fun with Halo. And then when Halo 2 came out, it was just, we're all in the barracks. So we all had our different TVs, and it was insane. It was good.
Right.
That I'm lucky to say that I was part of that, the LAN type of Halo stuff. We did a lot of that.
I missed that era.
So good. Yeah.
I wish I had been around for that. I was like a little too late for it, but
I just remember like I had a TV in my room and I would like wait for my dad to go to sleep. And I'd be like, okay, he's asleep. And then we'd like go into like the office and like the TV room, and like we'd grab the TVs from other parts of the house and bring them into my room. Because I like
while he was asleep.
I was asleep because I like the biggest, most immovable TV, basically.
Yeah.
It was like an old hand-me-down. It was huge, but it was like 600 pounds. And so we do that, and then we set up LAN parties like in my bedroom, and like we try to stay up like as late as we could so we could get the most gaming in. But then we had to like move the TVs back, and it got to the point too where like if my dad had to come to like go to the bathroom or whatever, we just like cover up the TVs in my room with blankets so like he wouldn't know. Like we were just like, oh god, I hope he doesn't look in the living room. I hope he doesn't like look in the office to see like if his little like 12-inch TV is still there or not. Also, I understand there's like nothing more convenient than like a Nintendo Switch. But I just want to talk about the GameCube GBA connection for a little bit.
Yes.
I think that's so strange, but so freaking cool too. Like just the fact that you could like link your Game Boy and like use that as a controller, and that there was like interconnectivity between Metroid Prime and like Metroid Fusion. Like that was groundbreaking at the time. And like, I know it's not super convenient, but it is super cool that you could like swipe a card and like get a game.
Oh god.
Like that felt like the future. And like I know that like we're clearly way more in the future now, both literally and technologically speaking, but like man, swiping a pack of cards to like get Donkey Kong or something on your Game Boy, that is the god future to me. Like that was so cool, man. And we just WiiWare. We just swapped it in for WiiWare.
Instead, we got Cooking Mama.
Yeah.
I love that.
For me, it was the GameCube is my all-time favorite system,
Me too.
hands down, because the Game Boy Player.
Yeah.
So you have all of these amazing games that you could play on the TV. You had the two Metroids. You had anything that you wanted as far, because they released a lot of the Final Fantasy games on the Game Boy Advance.
I know, and they're better than the DS versions because they didn't screw with the art style. Sorry, I got a big problem with like the chibi style Final Fantasy 4 DS release.
Oh, you do? You don't like that? The 3D model?
I do not like that one though.
Oh wow, okay.
But I think the sprite ones for Game Boy Advance legitimately gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. And I think some of those are the best versions to play.
Yeah.
I think 1 and 2, but 1 and 2, is it the PSP? Is that the best version of 1 and 2 to play? I think that's what
the Origins one. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. This conversation has me thinking back on a lot of stuff. I was thinking about when George was saying about the TVs and stuff. My brother and I, we used to sleep in the same room. We had a bunk bed, and we would stay up like all night long playing SOCOM multiplayer on our PSPs in this bunk bed. We would just be like sitting there, like hoping our parents didn't come in and look at us playing SOCOM like 1 or 2 or whatever it was on PSP online.
Was that? Yeah, man. And then when I was in like 4th grade, like a Game Boy with like Pokemon Silver coming out, or like Pokemon Crystal coming out. And then when the Game Boy Advances came out, that was like a huge game changer because you didn't have to put a snake light in, like the USB weird like Firewire light or whatever. That was great. And you could just like close the clamshell like, I'm not playing anything. God, that was so good. I was putting together my resume, and I was like looking for writing samples, and I remember I did work for a website a couple years ago. And I found my bio at the bottom of my article.
I saw you tweeted this.
Yeah, George is an action RPG fan who still has his GameCube plugged in. When he's not playing or writing about games, he's watching the Celtics blow a lead in the 4th quarter and subsequently crying into cheap beer. And I just think I wrote that 2013, so 7 years have gone by, and literally nothing has changed. The Celtics blow another series lead, another 4th quarter lead in the Eastern Conference Finals against Miami this year. I played more of my GameCube than my PlayStation 4 this year. Like, the more things change, the more they stay the same, boys. So
Yeah. Oh man. I love thinking about like all the fun I had with games back in the day. I know for all of us things have changed, and I do miss like being a kid and like just that feeling of like playing a game as a kid and all that. I did want to say, just because this is a hilarious story, and maybe we can move on after this, but my brother and I, when we got our PSPs, my parents bought them like used on eBay or something, I think it was, because they were like pretty new at the time, so they were still pretty expensive. And we found they were giving them to us for Christmas. They gave us each one for Christmas. And we found where they were stashing the PSPs until Christmas in their bedroom. And we started playing them before Christmas. And we would go in there like every single day and play these PSPs when we were not supposed to know that they existed.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And because it was used, yeah, like you weren't scared of opening the box it was in, and the games were used too.
Right. Yeah, because like there was no evidence of like us being in there. It was just when Christmas came around 30 days later, we had played these PSPs for 30 days.
PSP is underrated, man. That is an underrated console.
You know what? You're right. It is. And it was like an exciting time for handheld, like there was something legitimately good, had a better screen than the Game Boy Advance, right? It was the Game Boy Advance at that time, right? Yeah. Or was it the DS?
I think it was Advance was sort of on its last legs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Passing the baton to the DS.
And there was some really good games for it, like also, legit good games.
Screw Nintendo for pretending to have 3 pillars. What the hell are you talking about? You're going to have the Game Boy Advance, you're going to have the Nintendo DS and the GameCube. You're really going to have 2 different handhelds, like as the 2 of the 3 pillars. We know what you're doing, man. Like, sorry.
It's like when the Switch came out, I never thought they were going to stop making 3DS games. It's like, can you guys just stop, please?
Well, the most disappointing thing was the fact that they, I wouldn't even call it a remaster. They just ported the original Luigi's Mansion to the 3DS. And it was like, wait a minute. We got the Switch. Yeah. What are you doing? This is a perfect opportunity to see if people will buy GameCube games on the Switch.
Yeah.
Well, that and also, like, didn't they do like Samus Returns after the Switch had come out? It's like, come on, man.
I think so.
Yeah. It's like, dude, just.
Yeah, because I was in Saudi Arabia when that came out.
Yeah, it's like probably should have been a $30 Switch game, my boys. Like, come on.
I have it, and I've never played it for that reason, because I don't want to go back to my 3DS.
It's actually really good. I think it's.
I know. I need to just charge my 3DS and play it at some point. But all right, we should probably move on. Coach, do you want to talk about games you've been playing, or should we move into news?
Let's just go into the news.
Okay.
Austin, do you want to talk about games you've been playing?
Yeah, I'll talk about Hyrule Warriors for about 3 seconds. Since I didn't talk about it last week, I've been playing Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity since that came out about a month ago now, maybe a little less. But I just wanted to say that game is really freaking good. I think it's probably my favorite Warriors game. Not necessarily because it's related to Breath of the Wild. I just think the gameplay itself, it changes things. I feel like most of the Warriors games are very similar. They're all kind of hack and slash, but this one feels more strategic. There's more, especially with the boss characters. Like, you're not just sitting there like spamming buttons at them. Like, you actually have to pay attention to what's happening. Otherwise you're going to get slammed. And, I've never really felt that with any of the Warriors games before. I felt like they were kind of just like, yeah, I mean, you can like combo and stuff, but there's not really any difficulty to them unless you like crank up the difficulty. But I've been playing on normal. I found it actually pretty challenging. I think the story is interesting. I think that's part of why I'm so into it, obviously, is because the last Hyrule Warriors was essentially like a fan fiction game where it was like, oh, yeah, check out characters from every single Zelda game ever made all in one game. It's like, oh, well, that doesn't really make sense story-wise, but okay. And I love that game. But this one is like obviously all very condensed. It's all like Breath of the Wild characters. It's all in that storyline. So I find it very interesting and fun.
I think it's really smart and cool that like they had this story. Oh, there's a big war and then the kingdom fell. Like a big war doesn't make sense in a Zelda game. but it makes perfect sense in a Hyrule Warriors game. Like that's just really smart that like they're breaking the story up across genres. Like I think that's very novel.
No, I think it's really cool. And slightly news topic, but I just want to say I'm super excited for Persona 5 Strikers. They finally announced this week is coming west.
Finally, they did?
Yeah.
Wow. What's the due date or release date?
February.
Oh, wow. That's right around the corner.
Something like that. Yeah. So it's been out in Japan for a while now. Like it was, I think, last year.
Is it on the PS4 as well, or is it just the Switch?
PS4 and Switch.
What are you going to get it on?
I'll get it on PS4.
Yeah, I think so too. Something like that. I'd probably go PS4 just because I think it'd be smoother.
Yeah.
I don't really follow Persona. What is Strikers?
So it's a Warriors game. It's made by Omega Force. So it's basically a Warriors game. But this one, I think, kind of similar to the new Hyrule Warriors. It kind of steps away from the Warriors a little more and pulls a little more into Persona. I think there seems to be a little more strategy to it. I've heard amazing things. Like I said, it's been out in Japan for like 2 years. So it's good they're finally bringing it west. But it's a true sequel to 5. So it takes place after 5 ends. So, which is exciting because I love 5.
Very cool.
But yeah,
I will say real quick that I finally have my Series X set up in the whole gaming / theater room, and I did buy Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the last year's. I guess is it a reboot? Yeah, it's just Call of Duty, and dude, it is awesome, man. Like
that game is so pretty, right?
Yes, it is.
Even a year later, it's still so pretty.
Yeah, but there was also an update too, a texture pack. Yeah, there is. So there was a lot of stuff I had to download. It took about 4 hours to download because once you download one pack, then you could go in and I'm sure I could select them all. I just didn't figure out how to do that. Right. So, and I did it last Friday. So after we had our last podcast, so I've been playing that and oof, man, it looks amazing. It does.
Are you a big achievement guy?
No.
Okay. Because I know the platinum trophy for that game, I got that in like 3 sessions of playing the game. Like it is a very, very, very easy platinum, but like you don't feel like you're cheating to get that. It's not like a My Name is Mayo easy platinum. You have to actually play the game. I really like that game.
Me.
I'm sorry.
Throwing shade at me and Elijah over here.
Sorry, you scums.
Sorry, I spent $5 for 2 platinum trophies, George.
Wait, so what was the name of that? My Name is Mayo?
Yes.
Like I have no platinums, so I have to at least get one.
Uninitiated, just to let you know, My Name is Mayo, because I know we brought it up on the show a few times. You literally sit there and tap X like 1,000 times and you get a platinum. Like you literally just tap a button on the controller over and over again. That's all you do. So ridiculous. If you want a platinum,
how dare you?
And it's cross-buy on Vita and PS4.
See, this is one of those things where it's like, do you ever meet someone so stupid and you're like, I can't believe your vote and my vote like weigh the same. It's just like, I can't believe that like my platinums and your platinums, like we're conversing about platinums like they're the same. They're not the same. Get out of here.
So I wish more Nintendo games would do this because, you know, people have wanted the platinum, like that whole type of, I guess,
achievement system.
Yeah, that system. But remember the original Rogue Squadron, that was before platinums and you had all the different medals and you had different achievements. So you had time, kills, you had all these different things, right?
Accuracy, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but if that $60 game that will never be sold for anything less, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, they kind of have that, but it's either like you 100% it, or you could get 200% where you play the entire game going from right to left.
Yeah.
So,
awesome.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
So I got 95% because right when I beat the game, I did beat it, but I had one more, which was the last secret stage. And those, it just, you can't you die, you go right to the back. They're pretty difficult, right? So it was right when we were getting ready to leave, so I didn't have time to play it. So at some point I will go back and try and 100%. So, and then I'll have to do the same with the first Donkey Kong Country on the Wii, just to round it out.
Well, and I will say it's interesting too, because like people want those achievements on Nintendo games, and some of them like do it in the game. So like Pikmin 3, for example, we just played through on Switch, and it literally has like an achievement system inside the game. It's just not like on the system. Yeah. Right. There's like medals and stuff you get in the game for doing certain things, and it's literally like trophies or achievements would be. It's just not like on your Nintendo account or anything like that.
I remember like what was it? Nintendo like NES Remix that had like the stamps, which was like its like version of like an achievement system. But honestly, I want them to do basically like what they did on 3DS. Remember, like with Street Pass, you could like get little pieces of a puzzle, and then you're just like slowly putting together like a mosaic. Like
that's so cool.
That is such a Nintendo way to do it. Just like, okay, no, like each game is worth like 30 pieces, like 30 pieces of art. And then once it's combined, then you get like this really cool. The only problem is like the Switch isn't nearly as interesting visually as the 3DS was, because that was awesome just to get like a 3D model that you could like explore, you know? And I know it's not quite the same for Switch, but man, I want some kind of achievement system. Also, sorry, my niece is screaming in the background. She is really good at running up and down the hallway now. So that's fun to do.
But they just, I just hope that like the achievement system, I just hope that it's like, it's fun to do the achievements, right? Instead of just playing through the base game. Like if you remember for Metroid Prime, you know, scanning everything, that wasn't fun to me, you know? Whereas if you look at,
it really wasn't, man.
No, if you look at Arkham Asylum, I loved, like when I do a playthrough, I try and do it at least once every year, once every 2 years. When I do my playthrough of Arkham Asylum, I'll go through and get all the Riddler trophies. But there's no way in hell I'm going to do all the Riddler trophies in Arkham Knight.
Stupid Arkham Knight, Jesus.
They took it in a negative direction, you know.
George, just while we're on this topic, this isn't so much a question for Coach because I know he doesn't have any, but one, what was your first platinum? And two, what is your most
recent?
What platinum are you proudest of? That's the word I'm looking for.
I got them the same week. I can't remember which one I got first. I never gave a crap about trophies until like 2012. I was a little late coming to trophies. I think my first one is either Resistance Burning Skies, the Vita Resistance game.
God.
Or the original Borderlands. I can't remember which one.
Okay. I hope it's the latter.
My proudest one, that's such a great question, actually. I have the platinum in Star Wars Battlefront 2. I'm really proud of that one because that was a lot of work to get that one. Let's see. Besides that, I got the platinum in Drive Club.
Oh, that's
really proud of that one too. Yeah, I'd say one of those two probably. I've also got like the platinum in Tomb Raider, the reboot, and the PS4 remake of the reboot.
Wow. So you did it twice.
Yeah. And like the first one took me like 4 years, and then I just did the one on PS4 in like a week, probably.
Nice.
I go through bouts where I don't really care about gaming, and then gaming is all I care about.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. My first one was Portal 2.
That's fantastic. I'm that's on my list of games to go back to and grab.
Yeah, and which is why I'm glad that that's my first platinum, because that is one of my favorite games of all time.
Right.
I love that game. My proudest, I think, would probably, I have two. The first one is Velocity Ultra.
That game's brutal. Yeah.
Right. I forget what it was, but I think the final trophy or something that I needed was like to S rank like the final mission on like the hardest difficulty possible. Mm-hmm. And it took me, like, I literally sat there playing the same mission over and over again for like 6 hours.
Wow.
So
that game is incredibly hard. I'd be very proud of that.
It is.
I need to find one game for 2021 and platinum it. You know, just to get a platinum, because the thing about achievements for Xbox, they don't have that platinum achievement. It's just did you finish
just getting all of it? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think to me, it'd be like, I got the platinum,
Spider-Man's a good one.
Yeah.
Not Force Awakens. Jedi Fallen Order is a good one.
Mm-hmm.
My friend Fabio, who does not give a crap about platinums, even he got the platinum in that.
In what one?
Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah, I have it on
Xbox.
Yeah.
In that case, Miles Morales is actually a way better platinum than the original Spider-Man. Like it's just,
when you say better, what do you mean by better?
It's less repetitive.
Okay.
And so like there was just a lot to do in the original Spider-Man game, but it was just doing the same thing forever. It felt like, and Miles Morales just trimmed a lot of fat from that game. So like, he had to like go through like all those Wilson Fisk like hideouts, like the old like construction sites, and clear all those out. There was like, I think like 15 or 20 of those, like in the original Spider-Man game. I think there was 5 in total for every faction combined, or 6 for every faction combined in Miles Morales. So it was just like, hey, we know this is fun. Here's this X amount of times, and you can reset them if you want. But like, we're not going to ask you to do it 30 times because that's ridiculous.
But I'll tell you that. I mean, I only was able to play a little bit of it, but from what I did, I like clearing those out because those help me learn like the whole fighting system, right?
Oh, for sure.
So, yeah. So I'm probably going to go back to, if I deploy next year, which 1 month 1 month it's up in the air. I don't know. I would definitely, I have to get that one. So I don't know. We'll see. If I do need, if I'm going to get a platinum, I want Spider-Man to be that first one because, man,
I think you could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a good one.
Did you guys get the platinum for Ratchet and Clank?
No.
I have not, but just because I stopped playing that game. So that is on my list. I really want to try to get the platinums in like most first party games. Like that's like kind of important to me. Like there's some that I know I'm just never going to get, like Killzone, Shadowfall or something. And I have no problem giving up on a game like that. But like, I don't know, like I want to get like the Days Gone platinum. The Ghost of Tsushima platinum is actually awesome too. That one's super
I've heard that one's not too bad. Yeah.
That one is really, according to like psnprofiles.com, which is a website I check every day. Even when I don't play games, I check it all the time. Looking at it right now, its platinum clearance rate is 50%. So that means half the people who've played that game have gotten the platinum. I
was going to say this, talking about long games earlier at the start of the show. Persona 5 Royal has one of the easiest platinum trophies if you play the 130-hour story. It's like literally straight up, like as long as you do everything like properly, you just get the platinum. Basically,
what's everything properly?
All the social links and all that stuff.
No, you don't have to max out everything. There's like a few things on the side you have to do, like going to the baseball stadium and like swinging your bat or whatever it is. Like it's just side things that you maybe by chance would not do, but there's like nothing hard about it at all. Like there's no challenge to it. It's straight up just like, oh yeah, go there and do this. And it's all stuff that you can easily do in the game. So I thought that was interesting. Unlike Persona 5 Standard, which I'm pretty sure takes a New Game Plus playthrough to get the platinum, which is interesting.
The Spider-Man platinum rate is 47%.
What's a good percentage rate?
Well, that like with
anything above like 20, I feel like is pretty achievable. Yeah, except for the God of War games, those are all like 30%, and I don't have the hands for God of War, so I'm never going to get those platinums. I'm going to try to go for the original Mass Effect by the end of the year, I think.
Oh man, so what Mass Effect are you going to get when it re-releases next year? I'm assuming it's coming out.
I will buy the Legendary Edition, but like I'm at like 87% on Mass Effect 2 on my PS3. I just have to do like the Insanity playthrough. And then I have to do a whole bunch of just like random trophies for the first Mass Effect game, which I have no problem going back and doing.
Yeah.
I've been falling out of games, but like just talking about this, if more people cared about trophies, I think I would care more. As it stands, I've got like one friend, and like Elijah's not really competitive because he's so freaking far ahead of me that it's just like I'm just never going to catch up. Yeah. So it's just.
I wish I had 10% of the time that Elijah had to play.
I was going to say that the 2 platinum trophies I really want to get still are what was the most recent Uncharted game? The standalone one.
Something's End. Is it Something's End?
Yeah, that's a Thief's End.
What was it called? I cannot think of the name. I love that game. Lost Legacy.
Yeah.
Lost Legacy.
I want the platinum for that, and I want the platinum for Golden Abyss because I have the platinums for 1 through 4.
Are they easy or difficult?
I've got Golden Abyss. They're kind of grindy just because you have to play the games on crushing. But unlike the last games or like the PS3 games, like if you have like the PS4 trilogy, crushing is unlocked from the start. So you can just start on crushing. And then I did 2 playthroughs where I just focused on getting through the game, and then I went back and collected all the
okay, I see. So your first playthrough, you do it on the hardest difficulty so you could check that box off, and then you go back and then you get all the others on the
And it depends on the game too, because I think 1, 2, and 3 I just did straight through. Like I played normal and then I played crushing after, but on 4, and I'm assuming Lost Legacy is the same way. If you play your second playthrough on crushing, it lets you use like the cheats, and it's fine. Like you can still get trophies. So there's some cheat for infinite ammo or whatever it may be, and it made it really easy.
Whereas
you use cheats
before you couldn't do that. Like you had to play on like a lesser difficulty of a level you've already completed on a higher difficulty to use the cheats.
But you can only unlock the cheats after you beat the game the first time, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So let me ask you this.
Sorry, new answer. Most proud platinum. Grand Theft Auto Vice City. That is my most proud platinum.
Oh, man.
Yeah. 100%ing that game was a pain in the... I tell you what.
Okay, so real quick, look at the the platinums for the PS3 Ratchet and Clanks. What are the percentage for those? I want to be. I'd be interested because
I would.
If they're pretty high, bro. Next week is finals, and I got 2 weeks. I could probably burn one of those and get a platinum before the year's over, and we could celebrate.
So the PS4 one has a 21% platinum.
Yeah, that one's hard, man. I think that one's a little bit difficult.
Well, I guess that's on PSN profiles, I suppose. So it's a little skewed. Let's see.
That last boss, man, was if you don't have the right weapon, you're gonna struggle.
They seem to be all around 20%.
Really?
Do you have like the HD remakes for PS3?
No, but I can buy them.
All right, the HD remake of 1 is 27%. The HD remake of 2 is
34, based off of PSN profiles at least. So they're
but
not too bad, I guess.
But there's the other ones that came out. The
like All for One, Future Imperfect, and all that. But
stuff,
Into the Nexus, it says it's 31%.
Yeah, honestly,
so,
like if a game is but like even then, like the Star Wars Battlefront Platinum, I didn't think was hard. It just took a long time, and like that one,
they're just grindy.
That one is at let's see, 5 or 4.58%.
Yeah,
and like the Drive Club one is 5%. The Golden Abyss one is 13%. Like basically, like if a game is above 5%, I'll consider it. But like it's when it's at like 0.03%, I'm like, oh, that's got to be hard.
Well, and the fun ones are always the ones that have like super easy trophy lists, and then there's one trophy that like kills everybody, like Titanfall 2.
Yeah, man, I want that one so bad, but like the opening, like just getting through like the course, the obstacle course.
Yeah,
are you in 27 seconds or whatever? It's like, dude, are you kidding me?
I like honed my skills on that. It took me a while of training to get that properly.
Wait, you got it?
Yeah, I have the platinum for Titanfall 2.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Somehow.
I'm jealous.
Well, that's some fun trophy talk for you.
Yeah.
I guess.
Sorry.
Elijah wasn't on.
Yeah, we'll have Elijah on soon, and then he can talk about his stupidly impressive
700 platinums. Yeah.
Are you serious?
No.
Oh, I was going to say, wait, what?
He does have a lot, though.
No, but it feels like it.
I have maybe 30, I think, is probably around what I have, which isn't like that much, actually, for most people anymore.
I have 68. Elijah has 102.
Yeah.
And he's already at 32% for Fast and Furious Crossroads.
Let me do some research, and not that I'm not going to get the Hello Mayo or whatever that one is called. What was the name of it that you just have to hit?
My name is Mayo.
My name is Mayo. Let me do a little bit of research, and whether it's on the PS3 or PS4, I don't care. I'll try and get one by the end of the year. I'll try.
Right. Very cool.
Yeah.
I think the
remaster.
Spider-Man one is a good one. And if you played that game, you're closer to it than you think you are. Like that game, there's no trophies that lock out after completing the story. So
there's just a lot of cleanup to it. There's a lot of grinding at the end.
Yeah.
So it does take some time, but it's not hard at all. So cool. Well, we can talk about some news quick if you guys want to.
Where are we at as far as time?
We're about an hour in.
Okay.
So we can maybe do one or two. It's up to y'all.
All right.
But we'll figure it out. George, I think you have an interesting story, so why don't you roll with it?
Reading this article from Engadget, courtesy of Igor Bonifacic, BioWare's GM Casey Hudson and Dragon Age producer. Let's see what's the Dragon Age producer's name.
Mark Dara.
Mark Dara. Yeah, sorry, that was not in the headline. They're leaving the studio BioWare. Opening paragraph. Two of BioWare's oldest and most well-known employees are leaving the studio. On Thursday, EA announced that both Casey Hudson and Mark Dara have decided to retire. For Hudson, this is his second departure from BioWare. After working on all three of the original Mass Effect games, he left the studio in 2014, only to return in 2017 to take over as its general manager. Everyone at BioWare is like, this is still such an exciting time to be at BioWare. We look forward to the future. I think this is a bad omen.
I agree.
I don't know. It's never a great sign when like a sports team trades away its best players for draft picks. That's it's historically not great. That usually means they're rebuilding and they're not going to be good for like 4 or 5 years. And similarly, I don't know if BioWare is going to be good for 4 or 5 years. I don't know if they're going to even be around in 4 or 5 years. We'll see.
Especially considering their last game flopped, both financially and critically.
Yeah.
And then Mass Effect Andromeda, I don't know how it did financially, but critically, again, flopped.
I don't think it flopped. It was just like aggressively average. And like that game, I know I've locked horns with Seth on this podcast about that game. I think that game gets a lot more flack than it deserves. I think that game is genuinely fun. It's just, it doesn't mean as much as, the original Mass Effect meant to you 10 years ago. And like, that's fine. You're a different person than you were 10 years ago. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
I need to try to play it again. I got about 10 hours in and then I stopped, but I was enjoying what I played. I didn't think it was necessarily awful like everyone was making it out to be, but I didn't think it was like blowing me away. But the problem is Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 are like some of my favorite games of all time. So it's like, those games are on a pedestal for me, whereas this game kind of trots along and tries to pick up on it, but I didn't really get that from it. But no, I think, I don't know, man. The Game Awards are Thursday, so this show will have aired, or the Game Awards will have aired by the time this show is out, but they're supposedly showing some of the new Dragon Age there. Yes. So I'm curious what it looks like.
Yeah. And really quickly, in 2011, they released Dragon Age 2. Also in 2011, they released Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMO. In 2012, they released Mass Effect 3. In 2013, they canceled a Warhammer Online game. In 2013, they released Command & Conquer Generals 2. I remember everyone being really excited for that game. Dragon Age Inquisition came out in 2014. Shadow Realms was canceled in 2015. Mass Effect Andromeda came out in 2017. Anthem came out in 2019. It's just been a little... It's one of those things where like, oh, they can't close down the studio. The BioWare name means so much. And it's just like, does it though? Like what have they done for us lately? Like I'd say since they haven't had a game really hit with people in 6 years, right? Since Dragon Age Inquisition.
And even that, I think people look back on it kind of negatively. I think it had pretty high praise when it came out, but from my understanding, and I'm not like a Dragon Age fan, I've never played any of them, so I don't know. But and I don't know if this is just like the internet being the internet, but I've heard from plenty of friends who loved that game when it came out that they kind of soured on it after they played, which is interesting. So
I mean, it was basically Skyrim, like a third person Skyrim, because you're just going around closing rifts. But even then, like, did people really like it, or was it just people liked it more than Dragon Age 2, which I know they did not like generally, you know, because it wasn't Dragon Age 1. And so it's just, what have you done first? Like, I still stand by Mass Effect Andromeda. I still think that is like a good game worth playing, and it's always on sale for like $10. You're crazy if you think any AAA game is not worth at least $10. Like, I think like that's like insane. Yeah.
Do you consider Aliens Colonial Marines a AAA title? Yeah,
I would. But like, even then, I think that game is worth $10. Like,
now that they fixed it, well, the PC version, you go in and change one little code, but I
don't think you were on for this, but Seth brought up, like, I wasn't even on the podcast when this happened, but like Seth brought up Aliens Colonial Marines when he's talking about, like, because that game came out 10 years after GoldenEye, isn't that game better than GoldenEye? Like, even though that game sucks compared to GoldenEye, technically, isn't it a better video game than GoldenEye? That's like one of my favorite conversations I've ever heard on any podcast. All courtesy of Seth. Miss you, you big bear. God.
Yeah. I can't wait for Seth to come back and be a better host than me. But
no, you're fine. But I mean, if you think about it, didn't one of the directors for Halo Infinite also step down? Like, he just recently left.
I think so.
Yes, I believe he did.
Creative director or something like that.
Maybe.
Might have been.
And then, I mean, the whole development hell of Metroid Prime 4, no one knows what's going on with that. It's being given to another studio. We don't even know who's left at Retro Studios from the original Metroid Prime, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, you know, when you skip generation, or when you move to generations, these companies that were leading, right, that had these strong teams, they start leaving, right? And so, I mean, look at 343, man. They're like, are they setting the bar for Halo? I don't think so, man.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with BioWare. At least I think. Genuinely, I don't know that people really care about Dragon Age or Mass Effect anymore. Like, as far as like the people that played those games, I think have kind of moved on. Like, it's been so long at this point. I'm just curious how they're going to sell. And maybe I'm kind of speaking out of line with that one, but like, even Mass Effect, like, I liked Andromeda, but unless they change something, unless they make like this big expansive story like the first 3 games were, I don't know that I really care as much anymore, which is sad.
Yeah, but it's also fine because like you have your Mass Effect story.
Right.
You know?
And you're right.
For me, honestly, like my big thing is just like, what if we got Dragon Age, like Dragon Age 1, 2, and Inquisition on PlayStation 5, and what if they just ran perfectly? Like, what if we did that? Because Dragon Age Origins was busted as hell on PlayStation 3, and it didn't run that much better than it did on at 360. Or sorry, it didn't run that much worse than it did on 360. And like that game was like built for PC. Like, I watched a PC review of that game compared to the PS3 games. It's a completely different game where it's like an overhead, almost like Diablo-esque style of like controlling the characters compared to like third-person action game.
Right.
Excuse me, sorry, third-person action game of the console, and it's just interesting. It's like, so this is what you wanted it to be, and then this is what it had to be, so you could make money. Gotcha. Okay, cool.
So yeah, we'll see what happens. Like I said, hopefully we'll see some exciting footage at the Game Awards, but I think, you know, things can move forward without executives. I think or directors, I guess they're not necessarily executives, but
I think it depends who it is, like how much input they had.
Yeah.
What are you guys looking forward to for Thursday? Are you guys hoping to see a reveal or anything like that? What do you guys want to see?
Honestly, I don't know. I did see a tweet the other day from some games journalist, and they were like, these are all the games I'm most excited for 2021. And they were like, redacted, and some other game that's like been announced. So I was like, well, if that person's accurate and they actually have a lot of inside sources, then that's exciting. If there's really that much stuff coming out that this person's excited for. So I just hope we see some cool games. I feel like right now, 2021, I'm excited for Monster Hunter Rise, Mass Effect Trilogy, and Persona 5 Scramble, but there's really nothing else at the moment that is particularly drawing my interest. So we'll see.
I'm excited to be surprised. Like, I remember the first Game Awards I ever watched was like when they announced Skyrim, and I was just like, holy crap. Like, that's amazing. And then last year, 2 years ago, watching the Game Awards, they announced Marvel Ultimate Alliance, The Black Order.
Yep.
And like, that felt like it came out of nowhere. I know what I want. I want that Factor 5 Star Wars Rogue Squadron collection I've heard about 1,000 times. Just bring that to Switch, please, dear God.
Well, there is in Disney Studios somewhere a remaster of I think it's the two of them that are on the GameCube that were on the Wii. It's just sitting there. They were done with it.
Yeah. Bring that. That, and didn't they also redo Rogue Squadron too? Like, bring that.
I don't think so. I don't know.
I thought it was the two GameCube ones and that one that they brought, and they had like flight controls where it's like you could like actually like tilt the Wiimote and like steer like that way. Like, there was one really in-depth interview on Nintendo Voice Chat like 5 years ago, back when I was listening to that show. Nothing against the show. I just don't listen to games.
No, but
anymore.
Factor 5 is one of my favorite.
They're so good. They're so good, man. In fact,
do they still
I don't think
like exist?
They do, but they're like they take, I think, Netflix and they port it to the systems.
Yeah,
like they're doing something different. So, but they hinted a couple years ago because they've been on Nintendo Voice Chat since that. I know what interview you're talking about, but they're still together, and they're just kind of waiting for hopefully EA or Disney to be like, okay, let's bring these guys back to remaster this, Rogue Squadron is my favorite gaming series because I've been there from the beginning, right? Yeah. And I got all the gold medals and everything like that, and it was such an exciting time on the GameCube because Rogue Squadron was the second one. That was a launch title. And the thing about those guys at Factor 5, they knew the hardware of the Nintendo 64. That's why it ran so well. And they also knew the hardware of the GameCube. So they were able to utilize the power of the GameCube, all of it from the very beginning. And that's why Rogue Squadron to this day looks phenomenal.
Oh, it's still so pretty.
Yeah.
I forget what publication it's for. I want to say it was for Polygon, but this writer I really like, his name's Matt Paparocki. He did a really good dive on Factor 5, basically all about Lair and like what Lair did to their studio.
I forgot they made that game.
Yeah, that was like the PlayStation 3, like the 6-axis tilt control where you were supposed to like fly your dragon with the controller like that. I will look up that article and I will share the link. For people, but that was just like a really awesome in-depth, just talking about like how they were so far, I guess, out in the woods from their relationship with Nintendo when they were working with Sony, and it was just a bad experience.
Because that game was like pretty universally panned, right? Like, I never played that game.
Yes, it was. It is not a great game.
Okay.
And then even the last Rogue Squadron that they did, when your pilot got out of the cockpit, that's where the game just was like.
It's a really bad third-person shooter. And also, like, it doesn't really make sense why you need to get a gun if your pistol has unlimited ammo. Like, there's just, like, a lot that was a little underwhelming about that game. But, like, a lot of the missions were still super fun. Like, when you were raiding that AT-AT factory and you got to actually pilot an AT-AT. Whoo, whoo.
Well, I have never played any of those games, so I hope that they make that collection because I want it.
I do know that I saw somewhere that soon EA is going to announce some Star Wars stuff. Oh, no, Star Wars announced that they're going to announce some stuff here pretty soon.
On the 10th, I think, so which will also have passed by the time the show airs. Yeah. There's some sort of investors call or something.
Very cool.
But because they didn't do D23 this year, it's basically going to be like here's everything we would have announced.
Right.
That's like, it's like the big like Disney Plus day or two, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm still keeping my fingers crossed for a new Republic Commando, right?
Dude, I went back. I started playing that like on Xbox One. That game runs amazingly.
It does. It does. It's still to this day, you know, and that's where I cut my teeth learning keyboard and mouse because it's one of my all-time favorite games. So, you know, but yeah, I booted it up on my Series X, and I'm sure it plays the same on the One X. But oh man, that was a phenomenal game. The only thing that it was missing, like it could have competed with Halo, but the only thing it was missing was the 4-player co-op.
Yeah.
If they had 4-player co-op, then, and all they need to do is a light remaster. They don't have to do a lot, but make it a 4-player co-op and just add in some things. And that game, it would sell.
Especially because that game is basically just like Rainbow Six. Like it's a Rainbow Six game set in Star Wars where, you know, you're the commandos going through, you got to blow up the droid factory, you got to get on to like the Federation ship or whatever. Like that game rules, man. That's a really good game. And it's like $10 on Xbox if you have that. I can't recommend it enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope we see like a kind of return to form for Star Wars games. I'd love to see some more first-person shooter, like story-driven Star Wars stuff.
It's just it's weird to me that they've released or re-released so many games for Star Wars, but like not Rogue Squadron.
Yeah, right. Me too.
Like not like the most like respected, beloved ones outside of like Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, because they've released like all the side games that, I mean, people still love, but they're not Rogue Squadron. They're not.
And, like Racer's Revenge is like a really fun racing game, and like the 64 Dreamcast one that they just released earlier this year. Like, yeah, man, that game's fine. That game's super fun. Jedi Outcast 2 is a fun game, but like Rogue Squadron is like a legitimately good game. Like, give me that. Especially, there's no other games really like that. Like even Star Wars Squadrons to come out, that is not the same thing. That is like. That's like that's like a Rainbow Six game just with ships. Like that's like, you know, you're controlling like your operators basically. But like give me like the arcade stuff. Give me the good shit.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And I mean, you could get through the missions, but like I said, before platinum trophies and before achievements, Factor 5s did this. I'm sure other developers did it before that, but they had a legit, I mean, you had a medal count, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember my all-time favorite level in any game is the Hoth level on the second, on the, you know, the GameCube version, the first GameCube Rogue Squadron 2. And I remember like I must have played like 10 times before I got it, but even though I didn't get it, I was so excited to play it again because I just kept trying to, you know, you just kept chipping away at the stone at the different, you know, the time that you have to beat it, the accuracy and all that. You try and strategize. So
lives lost, targeting computer efficiency, all that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what you would do is you would slow down when you would drop one of the AT-ATs, you would slow down and you would just throw about 20 to 30 hits on it before it blow up, and your accuracy goes up.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
and then once you got your homing torpedoes, then when you do that last part, you could just pluck those the TIE bombers and the TIE fighters out real quick, and then that's how you got your gold on that. But you know, it's unfortunate because Austin sent me a text one morning. I woke up to one of his messages, and he said that Steam released Rogue Squadron.
Yeah.
Right. And but the only thing about that is there's a game-breaking bug on that. And they didn't do a good job at porting it because it's the camera. Like your ship, you'll lose your ship. You'll lose the camera, right? And it's because it's on a modern system. So I wish that EA would have taken the time to like fix that bug. Because I mean, there's another button you could push, but when you're trying to get that gold, you don't have time to be pushing other buttons. You know, so I didn't even play it, even though it looks better on PC. I still play my N64.
No, I do too. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see. I got a tower over here of like old consoles.
Let's see.
Got my original Xbox, N64,
nice.
360, Sega Dreamcast.
What color is your 64? Is it the gray?
It's the gray. I've been trying to. I want one of the like ice blue ones. I've been hunting those down forever, but they're always like $300, and I just cannot justify that. But then like on the thing that everything's balanced on, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, GameCube. My girlfriend loves it. She loves it. She says she's just sleeping in a room with so much history. She absolutely adores it. GOG.com has a whole bunch of like old Star Wars games that I've been enjoying, like Rebel Assault, and I guess I just don't understand why like the real-time strategy games I get. They're like, God, man, just bring that to PlayStation. Like, come on, it's right there. I hate booting up my PC. I hate trying to make things work on my MacBook. It is not built for gaming. Just bring it to PlayStation. Come on, guys.
Let me just say, if they remastered The Force Unleashed 1 and 2, I would be happy. But they will never do that.
Did they remaster Force Unleashed 2 into a good game?
You mean a game that's longer than like 2 hours?
That game was so short and it was buggy as hell, man.
Look, that game is still fun though. Okay, I still like it.
That was the one where you could like catch the missile and like launch it back at someone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that was pretty sweet. And then
Force Unleashed 1 is drastically better though.
And then Boba Fett showed up in the DLC.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm always tempted to buy Bounty Hunter, which is Django, but it's not a good game.
That game is so like you're just fighting the controls the entire time.
Yeah, and that's what people say. And I know Elijah, he got it, and I think he likes it a lot. So it'll be interesting to see what his take is on it, because a couple people have recently played and reviewed it, and I watched their reviews, and that's what they say. It's you're fighting the controls the whole time.
That should be your first platinum, man. Do you have any idea how much respect you'd get if that was your first? I think it's at like 0.8.
I tried playing. I beat Resident Evil 4 when it first came out, but I tried playing it on my Xbox, and bro, I don't know how I played that damn game, man. I'm like, after about like, once I get, the very beginning when the bell rings, right, or they toll it, and then they all leave. I'm like, you know what? No. When George plays the Wii version, I'll get on and play the Wii version, because I'm sure those controls are going to be a lot better than, the controls that are on the modern day controllers. So
I ordered a new copy of it for Wii because I realized that my Wii version was still sealed. And I'm like, well, that's just kind of cool. So I'm going to get a second version. I want to play that one. It's like
whatever you got to do.
It's $8 on eBay is worth it.
Nice. Well, we're like an hour and 25 minutes in. I know we had a couple other news articles, but Coach, are you okay if we just kind of wrap it up?
Yes.
Okay, Coach is not okay.
All right.
I saluted you.
No, I know.
Are you watching
kidding.
Zoom?
Yeah, I'm watching the Zoom, but our audience is not. So I was.
No,
but
you are.
I'm soliciting stories from people for this podcast about like early gaming memories. So I've gotten a couple sent in, but if you've made it this far, thank you for putting up with Coach and I talk about 15-year-old Star Wars games. That was really cool of you. But also shoot me DMs, shoot me the early gaming memories you've got. And then I'm trying to put together like a nice list for us to go through. And
we can do that next week.
Reminisce.
Once Elijah's back on, and we'll certainly go through them a little more. I have plenty more to talk about on my end. I think talking about gaming memories, it's always a fun topic. So
they're the best.
Yep. So, all right, guys. Well, like I said, we'll wrap it up here for right now. I know it's running a little long. Otherwise, I'd keep us going. But thank you, everyone, for listening. As always, if you're this far, you already know this, but we're on everything podcast-wise. We're on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, if people still use that. Basically everything you can find us on, we're there. If you're on a platform where you can leave a review for us, please do so. Obviously, the obvious option for that is Apple Podcasts. I think you can do it on Stitcher still. But please, if you can, leave us a review on the platform you're listening to us on. Please do so. Send in questions to us. You can do that on our social media pages, which I will get to in a second here. Or you can send them to our question form at bit.ly/frameskipq. So that's bit.ly/frameskipq. You can also send those questions to us via email, if people still email in these trying times, to frameskippodcast@gmail.com. And again, you can send them to our social media pages. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at frameskippod. And you can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/frameskippod. I am on Twitter at Austin J. Eller. Seth is on Twitter at Seth S. Taylor. Elijah's on Twitter at Loco Lizardman. George is at GB Loftus. And Coach is at Frameskippod.
Hyphen, or the little whoopty thing, Coach. Yeah. So whenever I post something, I'll sign it on there.
So whenever he hijacks my Twitter account.
Yeah, care of Coach. Yeah,
care of Coach. Yeah, there we go. All right, guys. Well, that's it for this week. Thank you all for listening. It's been a fun episode. We'll be back next week, certainly with some talk on the Game Awards and whatever else. So we'll see you then. Adios.
Woo! Amigos.
See you in another life, brother.